I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is. Eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on? It's not enough to say it's nuts. You have to explain why it's so nuts. The invention of artificial life, the cloning of human beings, possible contact with extraterrestrials, the systems which are in place to keep the world sane are utterly inadequate to the forces that have been unleashed.
Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Today my guest is Steve Rother. First, if you would like to help our friend Cory Hughes, his dog and best friend Hazel is very sick. She requires very expensive tests and an emergency room visit, so I am putting aside our film fundraiser to help raise money to save Hazel. She's like family to us, and we really don't want to lose her. If you would like to make a donation, anything is greatly appreciated. We have links right in the description. If you can't make a donation, please send prayers and healing energy. We are booking guests for December. If you have suggestions or you'd like to be a guest, email me, forbiddenknowledgenews@gmail.com. Today I want to welcome Steve Rother. He is an author and internationally respected channel and spiritual pioneer. Steve, welcome. How you doing?
Thank you. Good to see you, Chris. Yeah, absolutely. I'm doing well, doing really well. Things are going crazy here.
Well, it's great to have you on. Looking forward to our discussion. We're going to talk about your recently relaunched book, Spiritual Psychology, the 12 Primary Life Lessons, in which you discuss concepts like the soul's hidden curriculum and the tools to awaken multidimensional DNA. And as this may just sound like metaphysical word salad to many, we're going to help explain these concepts as you understand them and get a little deeper into that. Before we do, this is your first time on. Tell us just a little bit more about yourself and let the audience know how they can find out more.
Sure. I'm Steve Rother, and I'm at steverother.org. We have a nonprofit corporation that we've set up that houses everything that we're doing. And basically, 30 years ago, it'll be actually 30 years in December, but 30 years ago, I was tapped on the shoulder. As a general contractor in San Diego, I thought I knew what I was going to be when I grew up, and everything changed that New Year's Eve. Literally, my whole life changed. I was completely overwhelmed for a few minutes, kind of taken out, even in the presence of other people, and it triggered me. And from that point forward, I started receiving these messages. Now, I was a general contractor. I didn't know what to do with them. I lived in a world where every other word starts with F. So you can't really take spirituality and start talking about channeling in that. Funny thing is, later they all found out what I was doing. All the people, the 7 or 8 people that I hired, and they were on board. They said, "Well, we knew that. I felt like I could have been talking to them the whole time, but I wasn't awake. That was the interesting part.
Right
But
on.
that happened. That happened one New Year's Eve, and oh my God, everything shifted from that point forward, and my life changed. And I started writing books. I started writing, basically putting out a message from the group every month. And that became the Beacons of Light. And that is, like I said, celebrating 30 years in December, actually January for that. I didn't write it the first month, but we've been sending out regular messages. It goes out to, quite a few people every month in different ways. We also have our website where we do a lot of seminars, a lot. I have the Lightmaster group, which is our highest level group. They meet twice a month. And we get together, and then I do other seminars as well, just interesting things, whatever we can bring together. I do them in person as well as online, but excuse me, most of them now are online, just a few in person.
Excellent.
But anyway, that's what's been going on.
Right on. Well, I'd love to hear more about that initial experience. Tell me again, when did that occur and what were the circumstances? What unfolded?
You want the whole story? Okay, you got
Sure.
it. My wife was into metaphysics. She was going to a church called Religious Science, very famous metaphysical church globally.
And you weren't.
And
You weren't into any of that stuff?
no, 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 no. I'd say, honey, you go play with your friends. I'll stay home with the kids,
All right.
because I just wasn't into it. I thought it was woo-woo. I thought it was a little crazy, and it was fine for her. It
Mm.
made her happier. So I said, go do your thing. New Year's Eve comes up, and we're always looking for something to do on New Year's Eve because I don't drink. So that always a little awkward to find a
Mm.
safe place for all of us. So anyway, she says, my church is getting together and they're having a deal on New Year's Eve and there's no drinking. Why don't we go? And I said, okay, you've been bugging me to go, all your friends don't really think you're married, so I will show up for you. I'll be there. And I didn't really know what to do. I was nervous as hell. I walk in the door. I was just going to stay under her wing the whole night. And the first thing they did was split us up.
Mm.
So we end up in all these different groups. Everybody was just they were just incredible. They all wanted that. They knew I was a newbie. I told them I was a newbie. I told them I didn't know the words. They're talking about Reiki. They're talking about energy. They're talking about, and I said, okay, I'm just going to nod and smile and try to make it through the night without being too embarrassed. Anyway, like I said, it all turned out really well. Wonderful people. At the end of the night, we had two lists on our paper. One was the things that we wanted to release during the last year that we were done with. And the other column was things that we wanted to bring into the new year, almost like a Ben Franklin spreadsheet. We showed up at the beach. We all hugged and kissed on New Year's Eve. And then a couple of hours later, we all showed up at the beach in San Diego. There's one spot where we can actually watch the sunrise, where it comes all the way around by San Diego, by Mexico. And now I'm in my element because I'm a contractor and they want to build a bonfire. And I've got this monster bonfire going before anybody shows up. And I'm over here hiding in the smoke because I want to watch everybody do their thing. I want to be the last and everything else. So that was fine. So the leader gets up, and the idea was they were supposed to take their piece of paper, rip it in half, take the things they wanted to release, and throw them into the fire. And everybody goes, ho, okay, that's easy. And then you take the other page, you hold this smudge stick, I learned later, you hold it up to the rising sun, and you read the things that you want to bring into the next year. And everybody witnesses it. Great. There was only about 12 people that morning. So about 35 before and about 12 showed up. So the leader gets up there and he says, okay, here we go. And he takes this thing and he rips it up and he gets ready to throw it in the fire and he stops. And he says, I'm being told that Steve has to go first. And here I am hiding in the smoke over here, trying to watch everybody. I said, okay, I can do this. Once I get done with this, I'm finished. I don't have to do anything more. I'll just clean up. So I get up there, rip it up, throw the stuff in the fire. Everybody goes, oh, it's great. We leave it. I hold this paper up. I've only got like 3 things on there I have to read. I hold this thing up to the rising sun and I can't see anything. I can't remember what I wrote. I can't see it. The words are dancing all over the place. I'm focused and trying to focus with my eyes. And it was a strange experience. And just then, I was completely covered with love. I don't know how else to say that. I have no idea how long I was standing there. It was probably 2 or 3 minutes. It felt like a half an hour. I wasn't speaking. The tears were coming down so heavy. I could feel my shirt getting wet as I moved. So I knew I was leaking. Anyway, I finally come around. I'm still standing there. Everybody's looking at me and they're all holding their hands up, sending energy, but I didn't know what that was. I thought it was some sort of metaphysical handshake or something. I didn't. So anyway, that's when the group came in. And all I could say, I never did read those 3 words, but then what I ended up saying, I'm going to be a light worker. And that was it. That began the process. So I get back in line. I feel just the same. I'm done. I'm much more comfortable now because I don't have to be in front of people or expose myself to something I'm not familiar with. And I start getting messages right away. Well, I didn't actually put them out until several days later. I have this internal conversation with these entities, trying to get used to them, trying to get comfortable. I was with a chat room at the time where other people were into metaphysics, and I had just discovered them. It was a Cryon chat room a long time ago, and several people were in there talking about channeling. They wanted to learn how to channel. They wanted to start this whole process, and they were giving me the rules. The rules were one of the things you have to do once you get them on the line is you have to have them identify themselves. Because if they don't identify themselves, they're the bad guys, and you got to watch out for them. So here I am taking this information, asking the group. I go, okay, I know you're here. I need to know who you are. Tell me what your name is. There were multiples. I could tell that. Tell me what your names are. Tell me what I call you and what dimension you're from. I learned that from my friends in the chat room. So they came back and said, you've asked a very interesting question, and we're not going to answer it because we want to bring information through you for all of humanity. And we want that information to be accepted by the love content of the message and not by a label placed on it. Well, that sounded really good, but at the same time, here I am in this chat room trying to rationalize myself. Well, they said they couldn't say this. And, I'm going back and forth trying to validate myself because I didn't trust myself. I certainly didn't trust the group at that point. But anyway, I cut them off. I said, okay, if you're not going to tell me who you are, I have to cut you off. And they said something I will never forget. They said, we honor all of your choices. And they were quiet. And that was it. And for 3 days, I was walking around the house basically like this big hole in my heart. I'd finally reached something I was trying to do, and they disappeared. So I was very frustrated. I go back after about 3 days, and I said, knock, knock, are you still there? And they laughed. They said, well, we've been with you for several lifetimes, so we're not going to be leaving you. We're here. If you want to talk to us, we're here. And I said, okay, if you're not going to tell me who you are, tell me why you're not going to tell me who you are. And that's when they said, we want all this to be coming out in that way. At that point, I started trusting them. I started channeling them. I never did tell my friends the deal. They said, who do we call them? And I said, we call them the group, because they wouldn't give me a name. And today we still call them the group because they didn't have another name to give them. They've later filled me in. It's been 30 years ago. So they've been filling me in on who they are, what the deal is, all for many years now. They're from the angelic realm. I thought they were ETs at first, but they're actually from what we call the angelic realm. And we have they consistently say it's very difficult to really tell you what this is like, what home, which is what they call heaven, or where we go when we die. They say home is almost impossible to describe to humans. We have to put it in human terms because you can't understand it otherwise. So they said, all your stories, angels, they're stories to represent things that happen here at home, but we have to put them in human terms. So therefore, we're not going to play that game. We're just going to give you the information. And they did. So for a long time, I talked as the collective of the group.
For those that would still be concerned about the nature of the intelligences you're speaking with,
Sure.
I would probably look at fruits of the information. Was it beneficial? Did it help others? Did it help you? Was it negative in any way? You said you've been communicating with them for over 30 years. If you've had an overall positive experience with it, I'm sure by now you would have been able to tell if it was anything that was trickster-like in nature, right?
There is absolutely no doubt in my mind. There's no reservation. I've been doing it for 30 years. These are beings of light, and all they're interested in doing is helping us as a collective. and helping the earth. They call her a sentient, loving being as well. So they're working with her as well. But so are the ETs. ETs are here trying to help. A lot of different ones are trying to help with the degradation of planet Earth and try to change a few things. But for the most part, it's us.
If you're looking to start your therapeutic microdosing journey, but don't know where to start, especially when looking for the highest quality ingredients, including nootropics, and what you'd expect from a true microdose capsule, check out our friends at Brainsupreme. They offer the absolute highest quality ingredients so you can start your microdosing journey knowing that you're getting top-notch ingredients. To find out more, visit their website using that link right in the description, and you can get 15% off your entire order. I'd love to dig into some of the information you've got over the years. I've spoken with plenty of channelers, and most of the time, the information connects and it meshes and it makes sense, and there are a lot of things that seem to resonate very heavily with a lot of the metaphysical information that is being channeled by what others call angelic beings as well. So I'm very interested in hearing about some of the information that they gave you. Let's start with the nature of these metaphysical realms. We're talking about benevolent angelic beings. Have they given you information about the other side, about negative beings and their relationship or role here in this realm?
Yes. And there's a very interesting situation that's happened here, Chris. I personally have a life lesson myself, which is trust. And one of the trust life lessons meant that I had to learn to try some things, which is probably one of the reasons I started channeling these entities that wouldn't identify themselves. I had to learn to trust the information rather than. So that's a repeating current thing in my life anyway. So that may be part of what took place. As far as the actual images of the other side, it's really difficult on a couple of reasons. They have shown me, they have told me. I've even tried to explain it in my latest book, which is Crossing the Veil, which is all about the death and dying process, what takes place before you come in as a spirit and after you go home as a spirit. So in that, I've tried the best to describe it, but it's a little difficult because, number one, there's no time on the other side of the veil. So if you and I have a conversation, we're going to talk about less than 30 seconds before we have a time reference built into our language. It's there. So it's very difficult to understand that. We do not understand infinity. We have concepts of it, but we can't understand it because we're on the other side of it. So we basically don't have that one as well. But for the most part, when we go home, we're connected with everything. We reconnect. We pretend to be human because we've just left a human body. So we're going to incarnate it, and we're going to incarnate on the other side because we think we're a human still. We incarnate with a body again, but there's no pain, there's no aging, there's no wrinkles, there's no, any of the things that we typically think are negative here. It's just a free, wonderful body. You only hang on to that as long as it takes to integrate into everything. So you're basically losing your concept of time on the other side of the veil. I'd love to say that it happens in an instant, but it takes a little acclimation to the other side to do that. But when you go home, the first thing that happens, when you die, rather, first thing that happens is all your dimensions come back together as one because we're multidimensional. The group says we actually exist in 12 dimensions, not one. Actually, it's infinite, but they give us groups of 12 because they show us, again, they try to put it in words that we can understand and concepts that we can understand. So they talk about the 11 different dimensions. The way they talk about it is that a white light, a perfect white light, comes down from Earth. That's the incarnation, spirit incarnating. It hits this crystal. This crystal divides it up like a prism into all these colors. So you've got 11 different colors. These are 11 different hues. The reason I use the word color is because it's imperfect light. and that's us. The white light coming in is perfect from home, but perfection is not allowed on planet Earth. So we have to kind of divide our perfection and have 11 different experiences. Over here, I'm married with two boys. Over on the other side, I'm single. Over here in another one, I'm been divorced 3 times and I'm going to try again. So we have all these different choices that we make on each one of these different aspects. So in many ways, we're not just learning what we came to learn in one lifetime, it's times 12. So the first thing that happens when we step out of the body, we come back together and we become perfect again.
So you're saying we're simultaneously living 12 different lifetimes at the same time?
Correct.
Incarnations?
That's correct.
Why 12? Is there a reason for that specific number?
The base number of the universe, according to the group, is 3. And that we work on base 10. When we move into many other areas of the universe, we're going to find base 12 to be the key of more of the universe. And we can see that in many different ways. Nikola Tesla knew this. Everything for him was the 3, the 6, and 9. Those were that's what he kept saying. If you understand the magic of the 3, 6, 9, you understand the universe, because that's built into all of his stuff. So everything I do now is divisible by 3. We try to. I don't put something up for $29.95. I put it up for $33. So, yeah.
Now, have they spoken to the nature of our ruling class? It would seem that there are some very anti-human ideologies that have kept humanity from progressing in many different ways because of the systems that are put in place by our ruling class. Would you say that they've given you any information about their nature? Is it necessary evil, as you would say? Are we subjected to this because it's a learning realm and without it we wouldn't be able to learn?
I'll put it in a different way. I'll put it in the way the group told me what's going on. We are evolving at an incredible rate. We don't typically see that with our personalities, with our individuals, but we can see it with technology. Technology is absolutely exploding on this planet. So we're evolving at incredible rates. With that, you've got people trying to take advantage of it, obviously trying to work their way in. What is taking place is as we are rising into higher vibrational status, the systems are the slowest to change. And many times your systems, when you evolve, have to break apart so that you can build them new at a higher level to where they work for you. And that is taking place. We're seeing it with money. If you haven't been aware of what's taking place with the dollar, you might want to look at it. You might want to look at what many people are saying. Get out of your stocks and get into cash and get ready, all the rest of it. And I don't want to be an alarmist, but our systems are starting to crack apart. We are certainly looking at that with the United States and all the things that have taken place here with the elections, all the takeover that has happened with all the things that are going on. We're no longer in charge. Now, we never really did have a democracy. So there's little cracks in the system anyway. We never did have the general public, the mass of the general public decide on who our leader is. We have the electoral college. We give all the votes from one state and all this other nonsense that just completely takes it up. Well, that's what's been taken over. And we have basically lost control of it. I do believe that the system is going to fall further apart before we can fix it. I think that will be economic system and absolutely government systems.
Let's get back to this aspect of 12. You discussed 12 primary life lessons encoded in our soul contracts. Is that the same as you were saying, how we are split into these 12 different incarnations?
No, it's a little different, actually, because each one of those 12 are working on the same life lesson. The only time we change life lessons, and we do it, is when we're sure that we have mastered one. The way that I can describe this, we actually did a seminar like this. The group actually had me play this out in a seminar. We had everybody lie on the floor and pretend they were taking their last breath. Okay, fine. Now we have all these 3x5 cards, and they get up and they write down, kind of like I was doing in New Year's Day, they write down the things in their life, the big events that they're complete with. And they write down all the things. They write down the things they're working on. They write down all kinds of problems, big events. And they lay these 3x5 cards out on the table. And they go through each one. And they decide, okay, this was really difficult, but I'm done with this. I've mastered this. I'll put it in this stack. Here's another one. Oh, I still have twinges here. Something's not right. I'm going to put it in this stack, and I'm going to bring it back into my incarnation the next time I come to Earth. So we decide really what we're going to be working on, and we also choose a different primary life lesson. Sometimes a primary and a secondary. It's kind of like going to college. You choose a master and a major. Basically, you're trying to cover all the bases that you can, and then you come in and you work through the life lesson. Of course, you forget all the plans. You forget, they're just right out the door as soon as you're born. But with the multiple dimensions, it's interesting to say that they're born at the same second, and we also die at the same second. You've probably had a lot of people on with NDEs. You're probably very familiar with all the NDEs. Most of the NDEs that I've studied say the same thing. They're met by somebody who says, no, it's not your time. And they turn you around and send you back. That's because your other 11 didn't leave yet. They weren't ready to go. So over here, you're dying of cancer, but you're hanging on because over here, you just got hit by a car and they're waiting to see if you're going to make it or not. And then if everything goes, you all go and you'll go home at the same time.
Interesting.
So there's lots of different things that you can do.
Now, going back to the group, how do they communicate? Is it strictly psychic communication, third eye visualization? Are you able to perceive them in any other way?
Oh, that's a great question. Great question. We teach channeling classes because the group wants to empower people. They don't want people to come and be a follower. They want people to come and be empowered and go wherever that wants to go. So when I teach channeling classes, they gave me some examples. And they said, basically, there's many ways that you can channel, but there's generally 4 ways that most people channel. Most people channel, if you have the gift, you can see things. That's a clairaudient. A clairaudient hears things, sometimes wakes up in the middle of the night with messages. A clairsentient is somebody who's extremely sensitive and actually picks it up just through the ethers. And then there's what I am, which is claircognizant. All of a sudden, I know something. And it's the hardest to trust, but I do believe that it's probably the most common. I believe, Chris, that we all channel. I think we call it different things. I really do. The artist brings in this message. The musician brings in something else. We all have some piece of that we can tap into. And that's the first thing we do in our channeling classes is find your first form of channeling because you're already channeling. If we can find that, it's easier to move over and try some of the other forms.
Let's talk a little bit about what is happening with the collective. You talk about humanity's spiritual DNA and ascension timeline. There seems to be a lot of people coming to different levels of awareness right now, becoming reinterested in different spiritual concepts. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I do believe that we're at a level where humanity is taking a huge step. I actually think that's part of the reason, only part, but part of the reason we have so much activity with ETs. We're seeing more and more every day. We're seeing things that just can't be denied. Even though they are denied, but even the I3 Atlas, NASA has made an announcement about that back in May, and they haven't talked about it since. And that's all we can talk about is this Atlas thing that's being observed from different ways. So yeah, obviously we have a disconnect with a lot of our systems that are starting to break apart already with that. But with so many things taking place, and so many things opening up, humanity's basically moving up the ladder. Like I said, with that, it means Everything has to change. It's a bandwidth. So the people at the top are experiencing most of the frustration. That would be a lot of your listeners. And the people at the bottom, of course, are being dragged along. They're finding things don't work anymore the way they thought they were. So we're moving up. And in moving up, in evolving, I don't believe it's actually going to happen in a single day. I think we're here. I think the fifth dimension is already here. The challenge is we're conscious creators, and we're so used to the third dimension. We create the third dimension inside the fifth dimension. So we still use the same tools. We still make the same mistakes, but things are different already. Already they've changed.
You mentioned extraterrestrials a few times. Is this something that you would consider different than the beings you're communicating with? Are these more of physical beings rather than spiritual ones?
Well, that's difficult because we all have a spirit. So even when we're physical, we have that connection to spirit. They are not ETs. They told me, because that was my first question. And I would have been fine with that. There's some wonderful information coming from all sorts of places throughout the globe, or throughout the universe. You got the Palladians, you got the Syrians, you got the Arcturians, you've got it really is some good information. And I haven't heard any fear. You would think that somebody would try to take this and say, "Oh, this is happening. This is taking place. You have to run over here. You have to buy this. All the crazy stuff." I really haven't heard much of that in the channeling arena. Now, I'm not out there listening to everybody on YouTube. I'm busy. I've got my own work and so forth. So I don't know if there is, but I've been very, very, very aware of my position in the world, what I am to do, what they want me to plant, the seeds they want me to drop, and how that works. We do the best we can. We have no clue. I think it was last week, astrophysicists decided that our galaxy was twice as big as they thought it was. We're just now coming to grips with the James Webb Telescope, particularly. It was the Hubble before that. But with all these things and all the advances they're making in quantum sciences, we're starting to uncover things that we've been hearing in different ways and different things that are taking place. I've never said this before, but I'll make it on your show. They talked about Atlantis.
Oh, really?
And they talked about, in Atlantis, we worked in a slightly different way. In our reality, we exceed with electronics. There's many different areas, but that was our big explosion area. In the times of Lemuria, or times of Atlantis, we exceeded in biology. And one of the things that we learned to do was to clone people. We cloned people to do some of the jobs we didn't want to do. We still do that, but we do it with immigrants, and we do it in different ways. But basically, we clone things to do it in different ways. We had some challenges with that because the entities that we created ended up having spirits. And we didn't understand because we thought we created them. We thought we owned them. We thought they were limited. We thought everything else. We didn't know. And that was partly the end of Atlantis. That was part of the reason that Atlantis closed the way it did.
Really?
Now, if you take that and you apply it to today, and you look at AI, and you look at robotics, which are right behind it, and you look at quantum computing, and you look at the new one that's on there called trinary, not binary, but trinary computing, we are at the explosion level of technology. And it's happening right now. It's going to change everything. The group says you're entering the time of no more secrets because everything will be laid bare with the technologies that are coming.
Did they relay that there is any concerns that we should have about AI and the growing technology?
It's the same thing that Atlantis was dealing with. Exactly. We have concerns about it. They were told not to procreate, and they procreated, kind of like what we did in the Garden of Eden. We were told not to, and Eve bit the apple. Thank God, all the rest of it. So that is taking place on that level.
I understand you taught channeling at the UN. How did this come about?
Yeah. We were asked to speak at the United Nations in Vienna. I didn't even know there was a United Nations in Vienna. There's United Nations facilities all over the world. In Vienna, it's a city. They basically have their own post office. They have their own, it's a city. And we were asked to come and we were asked to speak. I didn't know what that was. I didn't know if they wanted to channel. I didn't know what they wanted to do. I talked to them. They wanted to channel. It was a group of people that came together that were responsible for finding speakers. So they asked me. I said, absolutely, I'm coming. I showed up. We went to the thing. We had a whole bunch of people sitting in chairs. I sat down. I immediately went into channel, and we had like a 30, 40 minute channel. It was incredible. Then we answered questions back and forth. They took a break because they had a long meeting. They usually have two speakers, but this time they only had me. So I had a free section of almost an hour after we came back from that break. And they said, what do you want to do? You want to go back into the channel? And I said, how about if we teach you to channel? And everybody said yes. So we broke them into little groups of 3 and 4, and we gave them some of the channeling exercises. It was only about an hour long. It's not the same channeling exercises that we do, on a 4-day class or something. But it was really powerful. We took pictures. We got pictures on the website. And just people sitting in, chairs and so facing each other. But it was amazing. And we were asked back 3 more times to speak in Vienna, or 2 more times. So we spoke total of 3 times there. And we were asked to go to the headquarters in New York twice. So I've actually spoken 5 times at the United Nations, but that very first time, we actually taught a channeling class. And I think I'm the only one. I don't know.
Wow.
I've never heard anybody else. If any of your listeners know, please contact me. I'd love to hear if anybody else has.
Now, when you are accessing the group, can you just access them through thought or intention? Does it come at certain times?
Yes. They come when they have something to say. I have given them permission. Basically, they're on my shoulder all the time. It's like I can feel them here. They don't guide me. If I'm have 2 doors to go through, they don't tell me where to go. They don't intercede in my life unless I ask. Now, if I ask, sometimes they'll tell me, but it has to be me asking to do it. So I have to remember sometimes to ask. You may think that sounds easy. It's not. Sometimes I just make my decisions and I go, wait a minute, maybe I should come back and rethink that. So basically, they're with me all the time. One of the things they do is something that I call the gentle nudges. I sign all my emails big hugs because that's how they sign off with me, big hugs and gentle nudges. But the gentle nudges are the part that they communicate with me. Sometimes I'll be driving down the street and there'll be a billboard off to the side. I've seen it before. It's always been there. I'm driving by and the group says, pay attention. And I know they're talking about the billboard. So I look at the billboard, I read the billboard real quick and kind of get an energy snapshot of what that is and just keep driving. I don't overthink it. And then later, there'll be a bunch of people gathered somewhere and they'll say, pay attention. And I'll look at that and just kind of take it in. I don't have to solve anything. I don't have to figure out what they're doing, but I just kind of take an energy snapshot, kind of like a picture. And then they'll do 3 or 4 of those. And later, when I come down to do the Beacons of Light, which is our monthly message that goes out, or sometimes when I'm in a live channel for our Lightmaster group, which is our highest level group, they will put all those things together and they'll turn it into this beautiful message. And I actually had to see some of those things in order to get that concept. And that's one of the ways they talk to me. The other way that they talk to me is through claircognizance. All of a sudden, I know something. I used to do this a lot in private sessions, obviously, that I still do. And when people come to me, the group will say, okay, tell them, get them to talk about their mother, get them to talk about, Aunt Harriet or something of that nature, because that's where some of the problems are. And rather than us saying, Aunt Harriet's a problem, we bring it out of them. They bring it forward. So I'm able to ask pointed questions that kind of get into that and let that
Have you ever
happen.
reached out and
So
not gotten a response?
That was my greatest fear. That is my
Mm.
greatest fear. That I'd be in front of a large group of people. I've channeled in front of thousands of people before. And to get up there, there was one time in Rotterdam. I don't know how many people, but the place was full. They had a big boom microphone that came over, and I got expressive and I hit the boom microphone and it went away from me. And I'm sitting there talking and nobody can hear me. So my wife had to get up and bring the microphone back and so forth. So yeah,
You-
we always had the fun
Going
experiences.
back to the ways
Um,
that they
but
communicate,
there.
is there ever any physical manifestations, synchronicities, things that show up in your waking life that may give you clues on things that you're looking into or different connections?
All the time, all the
Mm.
time. It's almost as if they're a ghost, what we call ghosts, but they're not spooky. Yeah, I see I call them synchronicities. They call them cosmic
Mm.
winks, basically. So they like to use a different phrase, but I see synchronicities lining up all the time for things. Many times they'll want me to do a seminar on something that Steve is not super familiar with. So right away, I'll start doing something over here and try to do some research so I know a little bit of what I'm talking about. They'll block me many times because they want me bringing it through live and not researching as much. So that fluidity channeling takes trust. It's that simple. You have to learn to trust yourself. You have to learn to trust the things and allow yourself to be wrong. Allow yourself to make mistakes. They liken it to playing the piano. If you're going to learn to play the piano, you're going to drive everybody in your house nuts for a while you hit those wrong
Mm.
notes. When you channel, you hit a wrong note and you say, "Oh, I can't do this. This is not good. I'm not going to do this anymore." So allow yourself to make the mistakes, allow yourself to do that process and get comfortable with
Mm.
that. But that's the hard part for me, was trusting it.
Would the mistakes
Yeah,
come
that was
in as miscommunication or just not understanding the message in a certain way? As far as the way that you get them, is there any distinction? Is it easy to decipher whether there's a mistake in communication or not?
that. What happens is when I'm talking, there is an occasional time, it doesn't happen very often, but I've been doing it for 30 years now, so I'm pretty good at it. But especially in the beginning, I would just stop talking. They would stop feeding things in. I consider myself kind of a translator. They drop in this thought package behind me, and I have to go in and find English words for everything and phrases for everything. So sometimes they just stop.
Hmm.
And I realize I've made a mistake in translation somewhere. I have to back up. And sometimes when that happens, I'll just say, hang on a minute, and I'll just be quiet. And they'll tell me what I said wrong. They'll correct me, and then I'll say, I'm being corrected. This is what they wanted to
Hmm.
say. So it's okay for me to make mistakes because they'll stop me. If I've translated something incorrectly, they literally will stop me right there. And the people that are listening they don't think that that's wrong. They know I'm a human. I'm not a perfect being, so I'm going to make mistakes translating now and then. But like I said, 30 years has helped a lot, so that I've gotten pretty good
Right
at it.
on. I want to go back to the afterlife for a bit, and your understanding of what
Yeah.
they've explained to you. As far as the 12 incarnations that we experience, is there also reincarnation on top of that, as in we could come back as any other incarnation or being?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Reincarnation is part of the
Mm.
system, but we reincarnate as all 12. So you have another set of 12. You come back in and you have all these contracts. You know, again, they give illustrations that we can understand. They basically say at home on the other side of the veil, we have a big table, and they call it the big table. Basically, before you come in as a spirit, you gather all these people around that table and you ask this person over here, would you love me enough to be my first lover in high school and we can learn something together? And she says, yes, we can do that. No problem. And over here, would you dare to be my father? And we set many of these things up. Not that they all happen, but we set up potentials, which we call spiritual contracts. And then we set up another one over here. Would you be my best friend in high school? And would you steal my girlfriend so I could learn a lesson? We basically set up these contracts way ahead of time. Come in, of course, we forget all of it. We have no recollection of it, but we actually set them up individually in each one of the dimensions. So there's a lot of work to that, a lot of potentials.
Yeah.
And contracts are different than human contracts. There's no penalty if you don't do a contract, but it's just basically bringing people together. You may have a relationship you've been working with over and over and over. One lifetime you were brother and sister. Another lifetime you were business partners. Another lifetime over here you were neighbors and you hated each other. So you've had lots of experiences in different ways to come together. So you make a contract to come together again,
Mm.
but the contract doesn't tell you how it's going to end. A contract just brings you together. What you do from that point is up to you. You're on the planet of free choice.
Mm.
So the contracts bring things together. They bring the highest potentials together so you can follow the path of least resistance through life. That's the idea of the contracts in the first
I'd like to
place.
get a little
So,
deeper
like I
into
said,
the understanding of contracts. Is it just
sure,
specific people that we have contracts with, or it's circumstances or events, everything?
all of the above, all of the above. Yeah, there are so many people on Earth right now from Atlantis. They're here because we're doing it again. We have a chance to do it differently. And as a result, in the 60s, we flooded this
Hmm.
planet. In the 70s, we flooded it again. And there have been so many people, even the 80s and the 90s, a whole new wave of energy has come in, many from Atlantis and Lemuria, to try and do something different, to try and help humanity take this next step and make the step instead of being wiped out. But our water is rising,
Mm.
isn't it? So
It
we're
does
we're
seem
kind of back
so.
in the same
Yeah,
situation.
we seem to be at a critical time. Well, let's talk a little bit about how we can navigate that through some of the tools that you help people with to gain personal sovereignty, help with intuition, things like that. Talk a little bit about some of the things that you do.
We all have gifts. And if I can help uncover somebody's gift, that's really what works. That's when you become the highest use to the universe, when you can be in your passion. Now, it doesn't mean that, we think about passion, we think about all the different ideas of what that means and so forth, but that's really the essence of who you are. At home, on the other side of the veil, we're all part of each other. If one person were to have a thought, it would be instantaneously across everything. So it's quite different than here on Earth. And yet we're all connected here too. We just don't know it. We don't
Hmm.
see it. We have the effect of it. We can send energy. We can receive energy. We can send thoughts. We can receive thoughts. We can do a lot of things through those connections. The group calls it the universal energy. It's actually what quantum science is calling dark energy. It makes up about 78% of the universe, and we know nothing about it. That's the truth. It's everywhere, but we really know nothing about it at this point. Science, our quantum scientists are just starting to dig into that and try to understand what this is. So with this, we have all kinds of capabilities, new opportunities, new things that we can start to set up to step up. But my work is not to create followers. It's to try and get you to find your highest aspect. Most people that come to our events are healers and teachers in their own right, even if they don't know it. So, in other words, sometimes we encourage somebody to write the book, to get to go ahead to do that next step, to record something, to do something to bring in that channel. So that's kind of the people that we tend to work with, and that's my job is to try and do whatever I can to help encourage them to find their own gifts rather than give them mine, find the ways that they can do it, whatever it is they're trying to do, and encourage them to do it.
Mm.
Step up and just do it. That's kind of my job.
In the time that you've been doing this, have you noticed more people becoming interested in these spiritual concepts? Have you noticed any collective changes that are encouraging to you?
A lot, a lot. Number one, this used to be feared. If I would tell people, I sat on next to a family one time. I was put on an airplane, and my wife and I were separated. We got on late. So I'm sitting next to a lady, and she's talking to her families, which is in the seat in front of us. So I'm kind of hearing this conversation and trying to stay out of it and so forth. Finally, she looks at me and she says, "Oh, I'm sorry. This is my family up here." And I go, "Yeah, I know. No problem." She says, "Well, you're really interesting. Where are you going? What are you doing?" And she says, "What kind of work do you do?" And I said, "Well, I'm an author." Well, when you say you're an author, that opens a door. It never stops there. Well, what do you write? Do you review anything? I know I'm a spiritual author. And finally, I just decided to let it go. And I said, I'm a channel, and I channel entities from the other side of the veil. And she wouldn't look at me the rest of the trip. That was back then. That's changed. That all of that has changed. And although there may be people still afraid of it, they wouldn't do what she did. All of this stuff has changed. The fear of channeling, the fear of being taken over by evil entities is changing. We're seeing so many people that are doing it successfully, and nobody that's real. Well, I'm sure there's some people that are blaming the entities on the other side for something, but that's their translation. That's their game that they're playing. But that's kind of my job and how I see it, and kind of where
Did they give you any other information about the nature of the interest that extraterrestrials have with humanity, if there are good and bad extraterrestrials, if disclosure is on the horizon?
Just like humans, there are good and bad extraterrestrials. Absolutely. There are people that are misfocused. There are people that are going after their own interest. There are entities in many different ways. The thing to keep in mind with ETs, what the group talks about, is that their technology is through the roof. The group even calls most of them EDs because they say they're actually extra dimensional. They know how to change their dimensions rather than travel all those billions of miles that we don't know about. The reality is that they don't actually travel many. Sometimes we see a spaceship in the sky and it disappears. Well, we think it took off at a speed that we can't capture, but in reality, it just changed dimensions. So we see a lot of that going on, and we're going to understand more about that as we go forward. Are there good ones and bad ones? There are rules on planet Earth. They have been violated before, just like anything on this side of the veil. We don't have to follow the rules. But the rules were that we were going to, it's kind of where the Star Trek thing came from. We were going to be develop on our own without outside interference. That changed. We had the Anunnakis. We had all the different things that took place. The group has basically doesn't talk much about, but they say, we don't need to bring everything through you. There's a lot of good information already out there. So we'll just simply say that's true. And they talk about that. So, but they also say that there are 6 parental races of ETs that started planet Earth and humanity. And it started it several times. We're a race of beings with amnesia. We've even had advanced humans on this planet. But it was so long ago, we have no record of it, no idea. And of course, we have amnesia. That's the purpose of all
Have they
this.
discussed the effects of biblical dogma and the effects that some religions have had on humanity?
I'm gonna put it really broad. I'm gonna say that we have beliefs. We all have our beliefs. But when we have a belief system that says if you believe this, then you have to believe this, and this. The group calls belief systems BS, and they get us in trouble. Yes, we give our power to them. We think they're advanced to us. We think they know something we don't. So we give our power to religions. And that wasn't the idea.
Do you think our
That
current
not from the
understanding
groups
of
we
these
picked.
beings as angels or celestial beings, maybe 10, 20, 30, 100 years from now, we would have a completely different understanding of what we're dealing with?
Yes, absolutely. As we evolve, we're getting closer to their
Mm,
vibration. The fifth dimension isn't a place, it's a frequency. So as we raise our vibration, we actually get closer to home and closer to them. And we'll also have more communication with ETs, all the people that have been trying to help. Most of these have been trying to help. We had 6 parental races in the beginning. There's only 4 of them left.
Talk a
We've
little
been here
bit
a
more
long
about the
time.
parental races. What are these?
Sure. They've never actually identified which ones they are because they say other people have clearer communication than they want to do here. They don't want me to be an expert at everything. But basically they said there are 4 parental races. We know them. There's, they've not mentioned this. These are probably the ones we know, the grays,
Mm.
we picked up all sorts of things from the cetaceans, the dolphins, the whales. We picked them up from the lizard from the reptilian races that have come here. We think of them as being evil and all of them have added something positive in the beginning of our races. So we see all sorts of other beings that are starting to become aware because we are starting to raise our vibration and open our eyes. We're starting to be able to see things and conceive things that we haven't seen before. Um, we have wonderful people like you that are putting this information out all the time. That's awesome. That didn't exist 20 years ago. None of this
Yeah.
existed. And now we're spreading the light in all sorts of ways. I'm very excited. They're very excited
Well,
about this.
that's what I want to
They say we
close
live in
out
great
on
time.
is your thoughts on where we're at, how to navigate turmoil that we're experiencing collectively, and what they would suggest as far as what should we be focusing on.
The most important thing that we need to focus on is us. We're so concerned about all the things taking place out here, and we need to. We need to concern ourselves about our changing government, about our changing systems, about our economies. We need to pay attention to that, and yet we can get so wrapped up in it, we can lose sight of what's important to us. I when all this crazy takeover stuff took place, I got very depressed in the beginning, and the group said, "No, it's going to change. You watch." I now have a positive aspect because I believe in humanity. We're only going to take so much before we stand up and say enough.
Mm.
And that is happening in many places on the planet. Doesn't mean they're going to listen when we stand up and say enough, but with enough of us saying it, we will make a huge difference. And that puts us in our power. So, from a collective, we all need to step into our power. We need to step into who we really are. And one of the ways you can do that is by finding your passion. You become the highest use to the universe, like I said earlier, when you find your passion and step into it. Most people think when they find their passion, oh, I have to make a living at this. I know what my passion is, but we didn't say that. We said find your passion and do as much of it as you can. That's the idea.
Right on.
And then your life will change and you'll end up planting seeds every time you open your mouth.
Excellent.
That's what we're looking
Well,
for.
thank you so much, Steve. This was great. Before we close out, one more time, remind the audience how they can find out more about you.
You can find out at steverother.org, O-R-G. So you can find, there's a lot of things we offer there. We offer online classes. We have chat rooms. We have different things that you can join us with here. But we also have YouTube. And our YouTube channel, we have a live channel and question and answers where you can ask live questions to the group in channel.
Excellent.
And we do that once a month at our YouTube channel. You can find information at steverother.org is probably the best way to
Great.
do it.
I'll have those links easily accessible for everyone in the description. Steve, thank you so much. Definitely love to talk again in the future. And until next time, everyone, have an excellent evening. We'll talk again tomorrow. See y'all then. Hello friends, I am so excited to tell you about Independent Media Token. Independent Media Token is a brand new way to show your support for independent media without having to donate a dime. Independent Media Token is a cryptocurrency on the Solana blockchain designed to generate funds to promote and foster the growth of independent content creators, allowing them to engage in their art without having to worry about being demonetized. Through a network of media partners, of which you yourself can become a part of, Independent Media Token's goal is to ensure the powers that be can never cut off all of our areas of funding and censor the only free voices left in the world. Join the movement today. You can pick up Independent Media Token using Phantom Wallet or the Solana wallet of your choice, where you can easily swap your Solana for IMT. Grab some IMT today and remember to always know your team. To learn more, visit independentmediatoken.com or use the link right in the description. Are you and your family prepared for an emergency? Maybe the fake alien invasion? Now is the time to prepare yourself and your family for any event. Check out Prep Starts Now. Their mission is to provide high-quality preparedness products that empower individuals and families to be ready for any situation. They're committed to delivering reliable, trusted gear to ensure your safety, security, and peace of mind in times of need. Their product selection is carefully curated to provide you with the essential gear you need to stay prepared. From emergency kits to tactical tools, every item is chosen for its reliability and practicality. Prep Starts Now understands the importance of family, and their goal is to equip you with everything you need to build a solid plan for your family's preparedness. In today's ever-changing world, being prepared is more important than ever, and Prep Starts Now is here to help you and your family stay ready with quality products and practical guidance. Use the link in the description and get 15% off your order.